Welcome in again, everybody, to the 423 Football Podcast. Today is our League of Record, KPT BALLAS Week 13 reclap. I can't even speak today. Recap / 14 preview. I'm your host, Brandon Bouchard, joined here by Brett Hamilton.
Hello.
And Kevin Johnson's back with us.
Gucci gang.
Awesome. Okay, so as you guys know, we were absent, or we're only going to have 2 episodes this week because we were in Green Bay last weekend. Mm-hmm. Fantastic game. If you listen to yesterday's podcast, you already know my take on the whole trip, basically. But I mean, Brett, did you want to add anything about your experience, your first time to Lambeau Field?
Lambeau Field is amazing. That is the coolest stadium I've ever been.
Dilly dilly.
It was a dilly dilly experience for me.
Yeah, we had a fantastic time. Regardless of the outcome, obviously it was a little bit better for me than it was Brett.
Yes.
But that was one of the better games.
Yeah, it was a really good game.
The past 3 games I've been to up there have been absolutely fantastic.
It was a really good game, and I'm glad I went no matter what. Just to go, even if you don't. Like, we were with a couple of other friends that had no ties to either team, but they still went and they had a good time.
Speaking of that, the last time we went to Lambeau, I took Peyton and Steele. Peyton bought a Packers toboggan to wear to the game. So, okay, that's fine. We go this past weekend, and Peyton, we go into one shop where they have just Packers apparel left and right, and they have other teams as well. And we look
at a thing from every other team.
Yeah, we look. Well, they have toboggans from pretty much every other team. And Peyton goes over there, and he pulls me aside. He's like, "Dude, which one should I buy?" I'm like, "It's just
this is his way of choosing an NFL team to root for."
I don't know. And he's deciding between a bunch of. He's he's trying to decide between the colors. He's like a girl deciding I'll pick the pretty one.
It's true. Peyton doesn't have a team now that Peyton Manning is not in the league.
I know.
Yeah.
So. It's just an odd way to choose by color and by choosing a toboggan to buy.
Yeah, but eventually he decides on the Rams.
Yeah. I was pretty happy about that. I thought it was a good decision.
The Rams are the new bandwagon team.
Yeah. So. He picks the Rams as the toboggan to buy.
He was a really big fan of Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce too, so he's got the legacy.
Yeah, he picks that toboggan to buy. He wears the Packer toboggan that he bought from the last trip to the game.
He didn't even wear the Rams.
Peyton's all sorts of confused.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
All right, before we jump into the news, quick announcement. Kevin hasn't been on since, I guess, this news broke, but congratulations to Kevin. He is getting married, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Getting married December 29th.
December 29th. We move quick.
In
this household.
It is very quick.
Is that your wedding hashtag?
Oh, it's my wedding hashtag is my fiance is Leah Brown, so my wedding hashtag is the Big Brown Johnson wedding.
Ooh, I like that.
It is actually not that because my fiance would murder me. So.
Well, you need to talk her into it because that's fantastic.
You can't let that one go.
All right, okay. So jumping into fantasy football finally. I split the news section into basically the guys who are practicing right now and the guys who aren't. It's kind of up and down at this point. Matthew Stafford, Sterling Shepard, Chris Hogan, Kelvin Benjamin, Charles Clay, Greg Olsen, Rashard Matthews were all back practicing on Thursday. So I think all of those, even Chris Hogan and Kelvin Benjamin, who we haven't seen in a few weeks, I think they're all going to be good to go. Tyrod Taylor was limited with a knee injury. I think he's still going to play. Lord knows we don't want to see Nathan Peterman back out there again.
No.
The other team does.
Yeah, well, the other team definitely does. Okay, but the guys who are kind of borderline, we'll just play in or out here. Tell me if they're in, tell me if they're out. Okay, Joe Mixon did not practice Thursday. He's dealing with a concussion.
I'm going to go no boss.
Yes, sadly out.
All right, go grab Giovanni Bernard if possible. Damian Williams did not practice with a shoulder injury. It's pretty much been the Kenyon Drake show without him. Yeah. So even if he does play, I'm kind of leaning to Kenyon Drake. But what do you think? Damian Williams, in or out?
I'm going to go out.
I'll go out as well.
Okay. Alan Hearns, been out for a couple weeks with an ankle injury. Did not practice again today.
Out.
Yeah, probably out.
Tom Brady he's been dealing with Achilles injury off and on. Did not practice on Thursday. I think it's the same old routine we've seen the past couple weeks.
40.
He doesn't have to practice.
It's like if any of you follow Brett Favre for the latter part of his career, he pretty much didn't practice ever. I think it's the same with Tom Brady.
When you're one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time, you kind of don't need to practice.
Yeah, I mean, why?
Yeah.
Orleans Darkwa did not practice on Thursday.
I'm gonna say in.
Yeah, I think he's in.
In, but not the best matchup. He's got Sean Lee's probably going to be back.
Very true.
And
yeah.
they might shut the Giants down. Surprisingly,
Zach remaining revenge game though.
Yeah,
very true. Zach Ertz still in the concussion protocol. I know people are tight. Zach Ertz has been very reliable for those using tight ends this year.
I'm gonna say in.
I've split feelings on this because I need you to win and you have Zach Ertz, but I have Alshon Jeffrey. But we're going to say in because that's what logic tells me.
Adrian Peterson dealing with a neck injury, still not practicing. Kerwin Williams dealing with a rib injury, also not practicing. You think either of those guys are in for the Cardinals?
No, out.
Same.
Will Fuller been dealing with a rib injury for the past couple weeks. He practiced on Thursday, practiced in full, so in or out?
I think it's fine. In.
Yeah, I think the latest news was they were confident he was going to play.
He coming back. Robbie Anderson, last one. Robbie Anderson, hamstring injury, limited on Thursday. He said it was minor, but what do you think, in or out?
I trust him.
Hamstrings are always wonky, but
yeah.
I'd say he plays. Hopefully he's not as good as usual since Peyton has him.
Yeah, well, and he's playing the Broncos, so it might not be the best situation in the first place.
True.
Right.
Okay, KPT BALLAS Week 13 recap. Playoffs are, they're 1 week away, and for those who don't know, who haven't been listening regularly, there are only 4 spots available in our 10-team league. We only have 4 people make the playoffs. So, mathematically speaking, I guess I am the only one.
No, three playoff spots are locked up.
Locked up, really?
Yes.
They're complete. Not mathematically speaking.
Mathematically speaking, I'm the only person who can be knocked out of the top 4.
If Peyton outscores a certain or 2 people by 160 points, he could be in.
Mathematically, I'm the only person who can be knocked out of the top 4.
Anyway,
that's not going to happen.
Okay, I've locked up a spot. I'll say 100%. There's no possible way that I can not be knocked out of the playoffs. Collusion. Knocked out of the playoffs. But other than that, I'll just go through the standings at the moment. I sit at 9-4, like I said, locked in. Matt, Heather, and Kevin are all at 8-5, and Peyton is still in the hunt at 7-6. So our league is based on a tiebreaker. Our tiebreaker system is based off of points for. It's not head to head. So whoever's the most points for, that's how we decide the playoff spot. Which I think that's how it should be. Because
rewards total season play than just one game.
Yeah, because fantasy, it's a matchup game throughout the season, and points for. You could score 180, the other guy scores 190, and you lose that particular week, and it's just, I don't know, it's a weird situation. But anyway, that's beside the point. So if Peyton wins, the points for obviously are going to come into play. And we'll just see how that goes when it gets there.
It's a very hefty lead on me, so
yeah.
Pretty much if I win, I'm in. If I lose and Peyton wins, Peyton's in. And if Peyton loses, I'm in.
Yeah, and none of the top 4 play each other, so if we all win, we're in. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Okay. Unfortunately, obviously, the latter part of the standings, 5 others have been eliminated completely from the playoffs this year. Steele, Joseph, Brett, Bush, and Charles. They've all had valiant efforts going forward, and throughout the year, they've had great performances, but just not enough this year. Obviously,
yeah.
I think Brett wins the Bad Beats Award of the year. Him and Josh pretty much win that.
Brett definitely.
Brett lost David Johnson week 1, lost Dalvin Cook week 3.
Yeah. And I lost those players. I'm still 3rd in points, 4.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person to have over 1,400 points scored against.
I think there was a 3-week span where you were the second highest scorer and lost each week.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to work on your defense, my friend.
I need to play better defense. That's what I got.
We need a fantasy defense drop.
Yeah. But the important thing is, even with all the injuries, I never gave up. I played.
Amen.
I played the whole season.
Kudos.
Still playing, still picking up players. And I think that makes it more fun. I thought I made the best decisions with pickups and everything that I could have made.
And you get to start your season next year with hopefully healthy David Johnson. So.
Yep.
Very, very true.
Yeah, I can't complain about that one.
All right, moving to the awards section. I got 3 to give out this week. I'm giving the Bold Move That Worked award to Steele for starting Josh Gordon.
Bold?
It was bold.
If you had Jesus Christ standing in front of you, you wouldn't invite him to dinner.
It was.
He
bold.
is our Lord and Savior, and it is not bold. I offered him Michael Thomas this week for Josh Gordon.
He told me about that one.
Just straight up. I gave a scenario to Josh Still this week where if he picked up. Okay, I'll set the scenario up for our listeners. So, Charles, our league mate, dropped Ezekiel Elliott. And Charles was out of the running completely, so he had no use for Ezekiel Elliott, but he still has keeper abilities. So Josh has had number 2 waiver, and Charles had number 1. So logic tells me that Charles isn't going to put in a waiver for the person he dropped. So I approached Josh and said, if you pick up Ezekiel Elliott, I'll trade you AJ Green for Ezekiel Elliott and Josh Gordon. And he said, But then Charles ended up picking up Ezekiel Elliott anyway.
Yeah.
So, but this is all to tell you that Josh Gordon is my king.
Is hyped.
Anyway, I'll just say, first week back, it's kind of bold. It worked out fine. He looked fantastic. Josh Gordon looked like he didn't miss a beat from the past 3 years.
Deshaun Kaiser did not look good, though.
No, and that just tells you how good Josh Gordon is because he still put up these numbers with a terrible Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback.
One player this year has gotten 85 yards against Casey Hayward, and the other one, his name is Odell Beckham, and Josh Gordon did it this week after not being on a football field for 3 years. So
it's incredible. Casey Hayward's been locked down, and the fact that he did that, an incredible move. Granted, still didn't win this week, but I mean, being able to play him and getting 8.5 points, perfectly fine.
Praise him.
All right, second award, the comeback award. Sticking with that Steele and Matt matchup. Steele was, he was looking good going into the primetime games, but Matt, this comeback award is going to Matt for starting Antonio Brown, and Nelson Aguilar, who Antonio scored 16 points, Aguilar scored 20 in the primetime games. He came back and knocked Steele out of the playoff race.
It was a heart-wrencher for Josh because Antonio Brown was a game-time decision, and he came in and scored 16 fantasy points.
Yeah, he didn't look...
And he started slow until... After
he was good for a while, but then, at the time, Josh was driving during that game, and I was checking it, and Josh wouldn't let me tell him what the score was without him knowing it first, and so I was just... I saw it when it was like 0.3 points away, and then it took off from there.
Took off.
Yeah.
He scored a touchdown.
I was rooting for Josh because Matt has a horrifically good team.
Matt's got a very good team.
I'll play him this week, so
I'm pretty sure he's already locked. So anyway, we'll get back to that Bengals-Steelers game here in a minute. But one more award, Special Teams Award. I'm giving myself another award. My special teams have been going off the charts.
It makes me really hate special teams.
Zerlane scored 16 points this week,
as
and
always.
Rams defense scored 17. Yeah. So that easily...
I'm going to try and find this stat that I saw.
Easily.
Just keep going, but I'll find it.
Easily won me the week this week.
I hate special teams.
Yeah, I am of the massive opinion that kickers should not be in fantasy football because they're pointless. The differentiation of them, there's no strategic play to them. It's just
Legatron.
This guy somehow kicks a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
So, like you can be the best actual kicker in the NFL and not be a good fantasy kicker. It doesn't make any sense
because your team's so good.
It's all
score touchdowns all the time.
Adam Vinatieri is probably the best kicker in football, but still he's on the Colts.
For years, Janikowski was the king, and he was not a good fantasy.
Seabass.
All right, waiver wire ads, really not much going on right now. Obviously, people kind of laying low because they've been knocked out of the playoffs. But I will say Kevin gets most of the waiver wire acquisitions this week. Picks up Peyton Barber, picks up Giovanni Bernard, and picks up Jason Witten. I think those three are the best picks of the week. Peyton gets Mike Davis. I really don't understand the hype on Mike Davis right now. No clue whatsoever. Seahawks have very, very tough matchups against run defenses in the next couple weeks.
And you just never know who's going to be good. Similar to the situation in Patriots land.
No, it's not even close because Patriots actually have like some relevant running backs. Mike Davis,
that's very true.
Eddie Lacy, Thomas Rawls, even Chris Carson, J.D. McKissick. They're not really relevant, even when they're like, even if you know the guy is going to get the majority of the touches, it's still not very relevant.
Right.
But anyway.
Okay, so here's that stat I found. Greg Zuerlein this year has it. This is in half PPR. This is what the stat's from, which gives more credit or gives more points to the players that I'm going to name.
Yeah.
Greg Zuerlein has scored more points than the following players: AJ Green, Leonard Fournette, Travis Kelce, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzgerald, Adam Thielen, Rob Gronkowski, Marvin Jones, Lamar Miller, and Brandon Cooks.
Wow.
Greg! Legatron!
There are only 11 non-QB players who have scored more points than Greg Zuerlein.
Wow.
That is absurd. Kickers should not be in fantasy football.
No.
I will go to my grave
except for Greg Zuerlein.
Oh my gosh. That is really dumb.
Like, he wasn't
13.8 points.
The crazy part, he wasn't even my kicker until like the past 5 weeks. I will say Will Lutz was my guy.
Yeah.
And then
my guy,
Will Lutz, but now it's my guy, Greg Zuerlein. Legatron all the way. All right, week 14 matchups. Obviously,
there are two that matter.
Yeah, this is the last week for the playoffs. I will be playing Peyton.
Charles Brandon.
Charles will be playing Heather. Brett will be playing Matt. Kevin will be playing Bush. And Steele will be playing Joseph. So, we'll let you know next week what the playoff seedings are, but it's, like I said, there's a few, basically one, for the fourth spot, it's open, up for grabs, and we'll just see how that plays out.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll see you in the playoffs, Brandon.
I'll see you there. Okay. I hesitated to put this last segment in, but we'll have a little debate here. We'll try to. We haven't really had any heated arguments so far. If Steele was here, I'm sure it'd be very, very heated. But the topic on hand is just hard hits in the NFL.
Oh.
So
this will be fun.
Yeah,
this brings out the best.
I got 4 different situations, or 4 different plays that happened in suspensions, and obviously we saw most notably the Steelers and Bengals game. But I'll lay out the 4 scenarios. We'll go through each one.
What are we trying to discuss?
I'll
if it was handled properly.
Yeah, and how the situation played out, and I guess they'll all kind of merge together because it's the league, doing their thing and hand out the suspensions. But I don't know. We'll just go through them and we'll see how it goes. Okay. First one, Juju Smith-Schuster gets suspended for his blindside block on Vontaze Burfict. Burfict, obviously we've seen the play. He gets knocked out, or knocked out, not knocked out, but he gets carted off the field. Yeah. Schuster stands over him for a few seconds, and Schuster suspended 1 game. So, what do you guys think of that hit in particular? Is it justified that he was suspended for a game?
I think it's certainly justified that he's suspended for a game. I will preface all of this by saying that I'm all for football being a contact sport and football being a hard-hitting sport, and all these guys going out and laying hits on other guys, because that's what they're there for. But I do not think that anyone should be going out of their way to maim or hurt another player, which that hit by Juju Smith-Schuster was the intent. he could have easily blocked him in any other way that wouldn't put him on a highlight reel, but he wanted to be on a highlight reel and he wanted to hurt Vontaze Burfict. So he did. And then he stood over him after he knew that he knocked his ass out. And, I think that that's absurd. I think that makes the NFL look bad. I think it makes Juju look bad. And you could see it on his face after the hit. He looked like he felt bad, and I'm sure he does, because, he could have inflicted major harm, especially in that game, after Shazier goes down with a potentially paralyzing injury. The fact that those guys were still trying to hurt each other like that is just absurd to me.
That's what I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. The Juju hit, I think, is the most or the one that I question the most, because it was so borderline, the illegal, the actual penalty. I understand you saying the hit was obviously we know what Vontaze Burfict is. We know what kind of player he is, going after people. He's been talked about in these discussions in the past, and obviously Juju probably wanted to inflict as much pain as he could, but the actual play and the actual penalty, it was probably the most borderline out of any of these I'm about to talk about, and the fact that it was almost just parallel. It wasn't. It was very close. Blindside is almost in quotations, because it was close enough. Granted, I do agree that Juju probably could have handled the block in a different way, because was it Giovanni Bernard who was carrying the ball at the time?
No, it was Le'Veon. Le'Veon
was
coming up the
yeah.
side, and then Juju just nails.
Yeah, but Le'Veon was a good 5 yards away. That's why I say it's got standing over the player. Not that I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think it's more because obviously players. They want to. They want to lay.
You're going to jaw. You're going to taunt.
They want to lay people out. It wasn't I just seriously injured you. I'm going to stand over you now.
Yeah.
That's not how it is. I really don't think, or I wouldn't like to think, that players are seriously going out and trying to hurt these players. I think there's a difference between actually trying to hurt the players and inflicting pain on the players. Obviously you want to make it hurt, but you don't want to seriously injure them.
I do believe that the majority of NFL players do not wish bodily harm on other NFL players, but there is a precedent for that, as the Saints had their whole bounty gate and all that stuff.
Very, very true.
So I do not believe that is exclusive to the New Orleans Saints in that 2-year span. I fully believe that other teams have mentioned hurting this person or going out and getting this guy. I'm sure that's a thing that is commonly said, even if it's in a joking manner. That still will stick with the player. And when this is a heated rivalry, so of course it's going to be tension filled. And I just think that you shouldn't, as an NFL player, you shouldn't go out of your way to hurt someone. And
the other side of this coin, obviously, it's the player that got hurt was Vontaze Burfict, and we've seen him. A lot of people regard him as the dirtiest player in the NFL, and it's just I don't know if it was going to happen. If this hit was going to happen to anybody, honestly, if this hit were to happen to a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, for instance, instead of Vontaze Burfict, we would be looking at this in a completely different way.
I also think that's part of the problem, is because there's a culture around it, kind of if you're a dirty player, if dirty things happen to you, you deserved it. Or,
karma. That's what the word. That's what they
karma.
say.
You deserve that. Yeah. You if next week when Gronk plays, if someone destroys him and gives him a concussion, everybody's gonna be oh, he deserved that. He deserved to get hurt and have lasting effects from that, which is absurd. We shouldn't think like that, but we do, because it sounds. It's easy to say.
It sounds
good.
It sounds justified.
Sounds good on a soundbite. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But anyway, okay. Sticking with this game, because basically we saw. It's Monday Night Football, so pretty much everyone saw it. George Iloka, his hit on Antonio Brown towards the end of the game in the end zone. Antonio Brown caught a touchdown pass. George Iloka, pretty much laid him out. I'm not going to say targeted him in the head. But I will say, he went. He just tried to dislodge the ball. I'll say that. But his suspension was revoked. So George Iloka, he's the only player this week, and in most weeks, appeals don't really happen much in the NFL. But this week, they actually just took away his 1-game suspension, and he will be able to play. But his hit on Antonio Brown in the end zone, do you think it's justified? Do you think he should be suspended, or, I don't know, suspended in general?
I don't think he should be suspended. I think it would be a finable if I'm actually watching, because I actually did see that hit, because we were on the way back from Green Bay at the time. It was head-to-head contact, which you can't get away with. I mean, especially in this day and age, in the state of football right now.
And in this one, he 100% leads with his head.
Yeah, he did, and I think that's the biggest problem. But I understand you're trying to. He clearly didn't mean to. I mean, you can tell just by the way he acted after the play that he didn't mean to.
I mean, the thing is, like, all of these guys, they don't want, even no matter how much they hate another player, they don't want to paralyze people. They don't want to knock people out.
And that's what, like, especially that play, George Iloka's play. He 100% was not thinking anything about harming Antonio Brown.
No, because
the game was on the line.
It was almost instantaneous to when he caught the ball, and I think that's the biggest thing.
It's gotten to the point where it's so subjective. Like it's just like they're moving at such high speeds. Obviously, the game's on the line. Antonio Brown's going up for a catch. Iloka is trying to dislodge the ball. He's going to do anything in his power to do that, even if it costs a penalty. Obviously, Brown caught the ball because, I mean, he's Antonio Brown.
He doesn't drop footballs.
But the fact that
I don't know how he
you're trying to do everything in your power to make him not catch that ball.
Yeah.
And he did everything in his power. If that would have been some other receiver, like, I don't know, like if it was like Martavis Bryant, maybe he would have dropped that ball. I mean, not every player out there is Antonio freaking Brown. Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to try to make that play and dislodge the ball.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a precedent at this point where hard hits, regardless of where they are, just hard hits in general are looked as like flags and dirty plays just because it's hard hits. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I think that there's plenty. If you go watch every single play of every week in the NFL, there's plenty of dudes getting destroyed and getting shellacked, and
it's never receivers though. Never. If a receiver gets hit hard, it's never.
Well, that's the problem with it's such a fine line, and it's such a hard thing for the spectator and the NFL, because the NFL has a duty to protect their players. Half the reason is because, I mean, it's their players and that's their job, and they've signed up for that. But also the reason of they just had to pay a exorbitant amount of money for a class action lawsuit about concussions. So this is a hot button topic, and it has gotten better in recent years. But like, it's not going to go away. They are going to still penalize people for doing these hits to when they lead with their head and go like up or down. Like yes, George Iloka was making a play on the ball, and I don't believe that he intentionally went for Antonio Brown's head or something. Like I do think that it is very important for us to watch all of these plays in real time and watch them as the game flow, and not scrutinize the frame by frame. Because when you look at it frame by frame, it looks real bad. It looks like George Iloka like planned out 3 weeks in advance to go knock out Antonio Brown. But like in this instance, I don't think that Iloka should be suspended. I don't think that he did anything wrong besides leading with his head and doing a play that is against the NFL rules.
Yeah, that's the only, like, it's people need to realize how fast these guys are moving and the reaction time. Like, obviously, like a lot of times when defenders like go for hits, like when they start their initial motion, the receiver is planning on catching the ball at one spot. If the pass is a bad throw in a different spot, then they might have to go down and go low, which is where the defender was planning to hit them in like the gut or maybe the legs or anything like that. But if the receiver has to adjust and go for a low ball and their head obviously dips down, it's going to be a head-on head-on-head collision. That's not the defender's fault.
You probably watched Mike Mitchell, his interview after the game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of what he was saying was like, dude's throwing bad balls and you got to dive for them. So like, it's not on the cornerback or the defender to make the adjustment to not hit the receiver. It's on the quarterback to throw a better ball or the wide receiver to make adjustments. But which I do agree with. I do believe that there are plenty of circumstances and extenuating factors that go into like where a ball is, where the defender is when the defender starts his tackle, like different angles and all that. But I do believe that you can't just chalk every play or every hit up to he was going fast. Like
that's what it's.
Yeah, the NFL is fast. All these guys are world-class athletes. And by that stature, they should be able to train themselves to make those adjustments and not do these things. They should, after playing football all their lives, they should be able to learn how to not lead with their heads, and they should like cancel that instinct out of their body. Like that is a thing that they can do. They practice football every single day. They can not lead with their helmets. They can not tackle people high and not go for knees and all this stuff.
I'll lead into this next. Obviously, next play in the Bengals Steelers game by saying a lot of the guys, like we're in the middle ground of the NFL right now, where a lot of the guys are. I mean, we have veterans that have been playing early 2000s before all this CTE and concussion stuff started coming out, and that's how they grew up playing. They grew up playing where, I'm going to take a dude's head off, and that's how they play the game. You just got to give the NFL time to adjust and get all these young guys coming up in the NFL to really see that the game has started to change. And it starts at the young age. It starts at like the high school level, little league level, all things like that. But another play, obviously Ryan Shazier, his tackle that resulted in a spinal contusion. I do want to give an update on that. He did have surgery today to stabilize the spine. We're still kind of wary on what's going on there. We don't have a lot of information. But I want to say that play in particular is, like you were saying, leading with the head. Ryan Shazier, the only reason that injury happened was because he led with his head. We've seen this in the past. I will say there's only been a few players in history in the NFL and even college that have been like paralyzed from hits like this. We haven't seen it much, so I'm saying it's very, very few times that it's actually happened. But there's like kids, especially now, are being taught like how to tackle properly. And even when we were growing up, I remember playing football and saying, never ever put your head down. Don't lead with the crown of your helmet. It'll be like I tell my brother now, don't ever put your head down in any sport because we saw what happened.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be paralysis. You can get messed up for life.
Yeah. But we saw him. The form tackle that Ryan Shazier made was not ideal for football players. We see them trying to obviously the helmet. You always see, it's the hardest part of the uniform for a football player. You think it's basically a weapon at this point. Yeah. So you tend to put it down. I understand that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into this much, but, there has been debate on, whether we should improve the helmet to make it harder and safer or whether we should just take the helmet away altogether. But I don't want to get into that too much, but Ryan Shazier...
I can tell you this, the helmet is never going away.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. But I'm just saying the debate. Okay, next play, Le'Veon Bell, or last play in this game. Le'Veon Bell, his touchdown run, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was on the sideline.
The dude gave up.
He gave up, but this is the precedent that is being created that defenders can't hit offensive players.
That is not at all what that,
I think 100% that's what that is.
That play was, dude thought that the guy 2 steps down from him was pushing him out. I do not think that had any... The dude wasn't in a position to hit him. He was in a position to push him out of bounds, which he should have done. He literally could have put his hand on him with a, whisper and pushed Le'Veon Bell out of bounds. I when watching that play, the thought that anything to do with, him being scared of hitting Bell. That didn't come into my mind at all.
See, that's all I thought about. Because, look back like 5, 6, 7, 8 years prior to now. If that was any other defender, Le'Veon Bell would have been laid on his butt by that guy. He would have laid him out.
I agree, because that guy would have made a correct football play. I think that this guy was literally just being a bonehead and didn't make the play on the football. Like, I don't think that
obviously,
I don't think that guy in the heat of the moment in the play made a conscious choice of saying Le'Veon Bell is running up the sideline and I'm not going to hit him because I might get fined. I don't think that was going through his mind. I think he did say, "Oh, I have two teammates right beside me. They're going to get him, and I'm not in the best position to launch at him. So I'm gonna just be there."
Yeah,
I did not think that was at all.
Obviously we're not in the head of. Yeah. I think it was William Jackson, I believe. That was a defender. But obviously we're not in his mind, so we can't really say for sure. But it's just whether it be a bonehead play or players not willing to hit anymore. Obviously that game, it was the. Scary. Like obviously. A lot of scary hits in that game that a lot of people focused on. So last play, I want to mention Rob Gronkowski. This is the only one I am 100% sure, 100% sure about. Like there's no way around it. Yeah. Rob Gronkowski late hit on Tre'Davious White after he was on the ground, out of bounds. Play was over. Whistles had blown. Rob Gronkowski decides to lay his shoulder right into the head of Tre'Davious White.
It was like his whole forearm.
Yeah,
that was really bad.
Like the hit is illegal in the field of play, much less 5 seconds after the play is over
and out of bounds.
Yeah, like this is literally a player that got frustrated because he got picked and launched himself at another player.
He got mad, why are you getting mad when you're on that team?
Which I was surprised. Like Gronk has had a reputation of being a pretty upstanding guy. Yeah, like he's whined. He's a loud guy, but
yeah, he's kind of a kid, but not like that.
He's never been malicious or gotten in fights or anything like that. So it did seem out of character for him.
I think the worst part about it, well, there's a lot of bad parts about it, but obviously the fact that he was out of bounds, play was over. As soon as he got picked off and the guy fell over with the ball, he undid his chin straps. He was that confident that the play was over before he went on the ground. He was 100% sure that play was over because he was already halfway off with his helmet.
He heard whistles. He saw the coaches on the sideline making the flag motion. He knew the play was over.
Yeah,
and then he still did it. So.
And
there's senseless.
And all these plays lead me to my main point, which is. The NFL has a huge problem with their inconsistency to suspend players and fines, and I don't know how they come up with it. I feel like they just flip a coin and whatever it lands on, a roll of dice.
To me, it just seems like there's too many people being subjective, and whatever committee's looking at it, there's a lot of subjectiveness.
The only thing I'll say is if Rob Gronkowski, the fact that he got a 1-game suspension, Juju Smith-Schuster for his block, he should get a bonus check personally handed to him from Roger Goodell. That's the scale it should be.
That's my biggest problem with when you look at all of these together. We talked about them all individually, but whenever you look at them all together, the fact that Juju had a 1-game suspension for his was a football move. No matter how dirty you think it is,
close.
He was still making a play on the ball.
It was a block. However dirty you think it was a block. The play was still going on. This was, and compare that to Gronk's hit, it was a WWE move. He pushed a guy's head into the ground after the play. Yeah. And I don't see how those two even out.
Yeah,
they don't.
Obviously you can't say they do.
Honestly, this is the first time I have ever seen a player, when the actual play is going on, a player gets suspended from an actual, before the whistle's blown, a play on the ball like this. Yeah. A.J. Green had a block almost similar to this in that exact same game. No one's talking about that. I think the fact that Juju Smith, obviously him standing over him, which, say what you will about that, but that and the fact that Burfict had to be
was hurt,
carted off the field, that, I guess, had a higher effect on what people saw and what the league saw and how they were going to handle that in the first place.
And it's all about optics. Like, this was Monday Night Football.
Yes.
This was two players that people know their names of, and a dude got hurt, and Ryan Shazier had a terrible injury early in the game. Like, there was a lot of press about it, so of course they're going to make a statement and make a example out of Juju.
Right.
If he deserves,
and that's not fair for him.
And like in the scale, especially when you're looking at it in the scope of Gronk's suspension, I don't agree with Juju's hit, but I for sure don't believe that he should get the same suspension as Gronk. I think that that's been a systemic problem with NFL leadership for years. I mean, it goes all the way back to Ray Rice getting a 2-game suspension for that video, and then like a year later, Brady getting 6 games for no proof of whatever they thought he did, and that 5-year-long thing, like it's like what you said, Brandon. They just like spin a wheel and decide, here, we're going to pick this many games for this guy, and then this many games for this guy. Like, there's no scale, there's no set rules, which that's something that should be done. Like, they need to sort that out with the NFLPA. They need to figure that out. I mean, that among many other rules in the NFL that are just, no one really knows what a football move is. No one knows what a catch is.
I'm still trying to figure out a football move.
Because that's the problem, because they don't know what the game actually is. A lot of like how they officiate and stuff like that. They base it off of what happens after the play.
Yeah.
They base it like, just because Juju hits a guy really hard.
Yeah.
Like, if he wouldn't have, first of all, if he wouldn't have stood over him, if Burfict wouldn't have been carted off the field, I don't think we'd be even talking about Juju.
Well, that's a similar situation when A.J. Green tried to choke out Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey got ejected from that game, and the officials after the game said, we ejected him because he was provoking A.J. Green. But he never threw a punch. He pushed him kind of hard, which set A.J. Green into a whirlwind. And neither of those guys got suspended, by the way. And then A.J. Green just chokes him out from behind and starts throwing punches throughout the scrum, and yet both players are ejected and fined.
And this is the same week that Mike Evans got suspended for throwing punches. So again, doesn't make any sense. Like what the scale is. Like, how many punches do you have to throw to get suspended?
There is no scale.
Do you have to land them on the face? Do you have to do it with the helmet off? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
And I really don't like it. Similar to that one, I don't like how they treat ejections as suspensions. I really hate that.
Yeah.
Like, the reason Mike Evans got a suspension and A.J. Green didn't is because they ejected A.J. Green. He missed one half of football. Mike Evans had to miss an entire game of football in a game that they really needed to win. Because he wasn't ejected.
Yeah,
I hate that.
Which is just doesn't make remote sense.
No.
And that's probably, I'm sure that's something to do with NFLPA's rules and not the NFL's, because they want to protect their players' playing time and all that. But
right.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say before I close it out, if any of you listened to the last podcast, I kind of mentioned that there was a report of a targeting rule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I know your feelings about targeting in college football.
I don't want to get into it right now. We're running out of time.
We would be here for hours.
We will be here. Yeah, we might make a whole podcast based on that. But targeting, I think, is the worst rule in any sport. That is,
I know your feelings on targeting. Someone got ejected for targeting this past week in college football, didn't they?
That's every game.
I'll make a quick comment about targeting. I don't agree with it in the sense of it isn't a game rule. Like, it doesn't have any effect on the technical play of the game. It's not like offsides. It's not like encroachment. It's not like pass interference. Yeah. It is all about the optics and the safety of players, which is important. I'm not going to lie that that the NCAA and NFL shouldn't be protecting their players. But I don't agree with targeting as a rule because it's not a actual football game rule.
Yeah.
But I do see why the NFL might want to do it, because it's another roadblock to teach players that this is what's going to happen if you do this.
Yeah.
And that would, even though I don't agree with targeting as a rule, and none of us do, it would put some sort of structure in how they discipline these people, because maybe they wouldn't have to eject suspend Juju, because they would be a 25-yard absurd number penalty or something for that hit.
Yeah.
See, the only problem, I don't really have, I don't want to say that targeting is all bad, because I don't believe that. I just want to say that how it's officiated in college football is one of the worst sports phenomenon right now. I will say phenomenon at the moment. I think it's completely done horribly wrong. I think it's subjective, and if you want to make things more obviously, if you want to make things more this is how a play works, if you want to make it, what a catch is, what a bad hit is, then you need to take away more subjective penalties, and targeting, it's subjective.
Yeah.
And the thing I hate the most about targeting is the fact that they're just ejected. I hate that more than anything in any sport.
Because it's subjective, and because it's just an automatic...
subjective play should be
an automatic ejection.
The one thing that can fix all of this is to make literally everything in the NFL reviewable. In the year 2017, we have hundreds of thousands of people watching these games at once. We have people in New York literally there to review things. Why are there blown pass interference calls every week? Why are there blown blocking the back calls every week? In the Bengals-Steelers game, the commentator started calling out the referees for their just constant flag throwing about everything that didn't have anything to do with the play.
Yeah.
Random dudes barely holding a jersey that didn't affect the block at all, didn't affect anything, but they wanted to nitpick. They can go and review that and be like, no, this didn't matter. We don't need to penalize them. We don't need to slow the game down. Yeah. Because they can easily do that instantaneously.
Yeah.
It's just like baseball would get so much better if they just implemented random things like reviewing things and not having 5 umpires on the field to do the song and dance with the pitcher and all this stuff. Have a freaking robot behind the strike zone instead of an ump that they can argue with, and managers can come out.
Yeah, that's why it took soccer, I don't know how many years to implement goal line or the.
Yes, so it's not just one dude's decision.
Yeah, and it's I think that ball crossed the line.
I'm sure soon soccer will have things to judge offsides like it is in FIFA, where it's not a line judge running up and down the field, because they're not going to be on the pace of play every time. They're not. No. They don't have infinity endurance.
Before we close it out, speaking of Cristiano Ronaldo getting the Ballon d'Or.
Boo.
Yay. All right. So that's our show for today. Just a reminder, go check out our show from yesterday. It's just me over there. That's our Week 14 preview. In that episode, we have our tremendous content as usual, including...
It's huge content.
Including the sought-after starts and sits. So make sure, if you want to see all those starts and sits and maybe some other content, we're always posting over on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you follow us at the 423 Football over there. Make sure you leave your comments and questions. We'd still love to do some sort of a question or a mailbag segment at some point. So make sure you get our questions and reviews in. So share us with the world. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.
Gucci gang.
Peace out.